I still remember the exact shade of blue the sky was that morning. Crisp September azure, the kind that makes you believe anything is possible. 15 years of marriage to Richard, and I was still packing his lunch every day like we were newlyweds. Ham and Swiss on rye, no mayo, a handful of those salt and vinegar chips he loved, and a note tucked between the napkin folds. Just a little reminder that someone was thinking about him. That morning, I'd written, "Can't wait for our weekend getaway. Love you more than yesterday." Our anniversary trip to Cape Cod. I'd been planning it for months. The quaint bed and breakfast where we'd honeymooned was booked, and I'd even contacted his office to ensure he'd have Friday off. A surprise. I should have known something was wrong when he kissed me goodbye that morning. There was a heaviness to it, like he was memorizing my face. But I brushed it off. Richard had been distant lately, working late, his mind seemingly elsewhere. I chalked it up to the Peterson account. He'd been chasing that client for almost a year. That afternoon, I was folding laundry when my phone chimed. A text from Emily, my closest friend since college. "Call me. Now." I remember setting down Richard's undershirt, still warm from the dryer, and feeling a chill run through me despite the heat. "Have you checked Facebook today?" Emily's voice was tight, controlled. I hadn't. Between preparing for our trip and catching up on housework, social media was the last thing on my mind. "Sarah, honey, Richard's changed his relationship status. And there are pictures." My fingers trembled as I opened the app. And there it was. Richard's smiling face, his arm wrapped around a woman I'd never seen before. Young, blonde, wearing a sundress I immediately recognized. I'd seen the charge on our credit card statement last month. When I'd asked, he said it was a birthday gift for his sister. 3 months. The caption read, "The best decision I ever made. 3 months." While I was planning our anniversary, making his lunches, sleeping alone most nights because he was working late, he had been building a life with someone else, right under my nose. I called him immediately, of course. Straight to voicemail. I texted, "I know, come home. We need to talk." Nothing. It wasn't until 9 p.m. that I heard his key in the lock. I was sitting in the dark living room, surrounded by photo albums I'd pulled from the closet. 15 years of memories spread across our coffee table. Sarah. He didn't seem surprised to find me there. His voice was eerily calm. 3 months? My voice was steadier than I felt. "You've been with her for 3 months, and you couldn't find the courage to tell me to my face?" Richard set his keys down carefully, methodically, like he'd rehearsed this moment. "I was going to tell you after the weekend. I didn't want to ruin our anniversary." I laughed, a hollow sound I didn't recognize. "You were going to pretend through our entire anniversary trip, then what?" "Leave a note on the hotel pillow while I was in the shower." He sighed, running his hand through his hair, a gesture so familiar it hurt. "This isn't working, Sarah. It hasn't been for a long time. And that's my fault?" I gestured at the photos. "Look at us. Look at how happy we were." "Were," he emphasized. Past tense. "I'm different now. I want different things." "You mean someone different?" I corrected. "Someone who doesn't know you snore when you're overtired, or that you're afraid of heights, or that you cry at dog commercials." He looked away then, the first sign that this was affecting him at all. "Her name is Megan. She's 28. She works in marketing at my firm." Each word was a knife. 28. 13 years younger than me. I closed the photo album in my lap, our wedding day vanishing between leather-bound covers. "Get out," I whispered. "Sarah, get out!" I hadn't meant to scream, but suddenly I was standing, the album crashing to the floor, pictures spilling across the hardwood like autumn leaves. "Pack a bag and get out of my house." That night I slept on the couch, unable to face our bed. The bed where I'd slept alone so many nights while he was with her. In the morning, half his closet was empty, and so was the spot in the garage where his car should have been. The worst part wasn't that he'd left. It was that a part of me had known all along that something was wrong, and I'd been too afraid to admit it. A week passed in a fog. I moved through the house like a ghost, touching his remaining belongings as if they might dissolve beneath my fingertips. Friends called. I let them go to voicemail. My mother wanted to come stay with me. I told her I needed space. The truth was, I couldn't bear for anyone to witness what I'd become. A woman hollowed out, existing in the negative space where love used to be. On the 8th day, a Tuesday, I found myself driving past Richard's office during lunch hour. I hadn't planned it. My body seemed to navigate there on autopilot while my mind drifted elsewhere. And then I saw them, Richard and Megan, emerging from the glass doors hand in hand. She was laughing at something he'd said, her head thrown back in a way that seemed both carefree and calculated. I parked across the street, watching them through my windshield like a nature documentary on creatures I'd never encountered before. They looked so ordinary. Not the grand passion I'd imagined tearing apart my marriage, just two people getting lunch. He held the door for her at the little Italian place where he and I had celebrated his promotion 3 years ago. Something cracked inside me then. Not my heart. That had already shattered a week before. No, this was different. The thin veneer of numbness I'd been hiding behind splintered and raw fury seeped through. I went home and did what I should have done immediately. I called a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, but Jennifer Blackwell, who'd represented my cousin during her divorce from that venture capitalist who'd hidden assets in the Caymans. Jennifer was known for being ruthless, thorough, and unfailingly prepared. "He left you for a colleague?" Jennifer's voice was clinical, assessing. "How long?" 3 months. At least that's what's public. Bank accounts? Credit cards? Joint checking and savings. Separate credit cards, but I'm an authorized user on his Amex. I could hear her typing. "Perfect. Do not remove yourself from any accounts. Do not move any money yet. And Sarah? Do not leave the house. Not for anything. That's your marital home." That evening, Richard texted, "Coming by tomorrow to pick up more clothes and my golf clubs. We'll be there around 6. I didn't respond. Instead, I went to our home office, a room I'd rarely entered since I'd left my marketing career to support Richard's. I'd called it a pause, but somehow 5 years had slipped by. I powered up the computer and began searching through our files, tax returns, investment accounts, the deed to the house, the prenup we'd signed, both young professionals with promising careers and modest assets to protect. But what caught my eye was an email notification that popped up. Richard had forgotten to log out of his Gmail on our home computer. My finger hovered over the mouse. Was I really going to do this? Invade his privacy? Yes. Yes, I was. What I found made me physically ill. The emails between Richard and Megan went back not 3 months, but 11. Almost a year of my life, thinking my marriage was just going through a rough patch, while they exchanged intimate messages, planned meetups, and even, I nearly vomited when I found these, discussed how and when he should leave me. "She's so wrapped up in you. It's almost sad," Megan had written. "Like she doesn't have an identity outside of being your wife." Richard's response, "She gave up too much for me. It's suffocating." Suffocating. Is that what my love had become to him? A weight around his neck? I forwarded everything to myself, then to Jennifer. Then I carefully marked all the emails as unread again. When Richard arrived the next evening, I was sitting at the kitchen island, calm as still water. He had a cardboard box tucked under one arm. "How's the River Point Plaza project going?" I asked conversationally. He blinked, caught off guard by my collected demeanor. "It's fine, on schedule." "That's good. You know, I was thinking about that pitch you made last year. The one for Astoria Group? You said it was the hardest presentation you ever had to prepare. Sarah, I don't have time. Because their CEO kept changing the parameters, remember? You were so stressed. I helped you restructure the entire proposal the night before." His jaw tightened. "What's your point?" "My point is, I've always been your biggest supporter, Richard. I put my career on hold to help build yours. I believed in you when no one else did. And I appreciate that, but 11 months, I said, sliding my phone across the counter to him. On the screen was an email from him to Megan, dated last November. "You've been cheating on me for 11 months, not 3. The color drained from his face. "You hacked my email? That's invasion of privacy? Probably. But cheating on your wife for nearly a year while she thinks everything's fine? What would you call that?" He set the box down heavily. "I never meant to hurt you." "Liar," I said softly. "You and Megan discussed exactly how to hurt me. You strategized it. Sarah's so wrapped up in you, it's almost sad. Remember that one? For the first time, I saw genuine regret flash across his face. But it was too late. Far too late. Jennifer Blackwell is my lawyer, I said, standing up. You can direct all further communication through her. I've documented the affair, the timeline, and I have copies of everything. And Richard, I'm keeping the house. As I walked away, he called after me. This doesn't have to get ugly, Sarah. I turned at the doorway. It already is ugly. You just didn't notice because you were too busy destroying someone who loved you. My 40th birthday arrived 3 weeks after Richard left. I'd always dreaded this milestone, imagining gray hairs and fading relevance. Now it felt like a line in the sand, my life before, and whatever came after. Emily insisted on taking me to dinner. Just us girls, she said, though I knew she was worried about me becoming a recluse. I'd barely left the house except for meetings with Jennifer. You need to get dressed, fix your hair, and remember you're still alive, she said over the phone. I'm not taking no for an answer. So there I was, wearing a black dress I'd bought years ago, but never had the courage to wear. Too form-fitting, too youthful, too attention-seeking, Richard had said. My hair was freshly cut into a bob that made me look like a stranger in my own mirror, and I wore lipstick the color of Merlot. There she is, Emily grinned when I opened the door. The Sarah I remember from before. Before Richard. She didn't say it, but I heard it anyway. The restaurant was dimly lit, intimate, with a jazz quartet playing in the corner. Emily had reserved a corner table, and when we sat down, she immediately ordered champagne. We're celebrating, she declared. My descent into middle age and divorce? Some celebration. No, she leaned forward. Your freedom. The rest of your life. The fact that you're not wasting any more years on a man who didn't deserve you. The champagne arrived, golden bubbles racing to the surface. I watched them, thinking about how quickly things rise and disappear. I keep having these moments, I admitted, where I forget. I'll be grocery shopping and see his favorite cereal, and I'll reach for it before I remember. Or I'll hear something funny and think, I need to tell Richard. And then it hits me all over again. Emily nodded. Grief doesn't move in a straight line. Is that what this is? Grief? Of course it is. You're grieving the death of your marriage. The death of the future you thought you'd have. I took a sip of champagne, letting the bubbles burn my throat. The worst part is feeling like such a fool. Everyone must have known. The way he paraded her around the office. Stop it, Emily said sharply. You are not responsible for his choices. But I should have seen it coming. All those late nights, the sudden business trips, the way he started criticizing everything about me. That's what cheaters do, Emily said. They justify their behavior by finding fault in their partners. It's not about you, Sarah. It's about him. Just then, my phone buzzed with a text. Richard, we need to talk about the house. Megan and I are looking at apartments, but it doesn't make sense for you to keep such a big place alone. We should sell. My hands trembled. After everything, he still assumed he had a say, that we would make decisions together, that his new life with Megan should dictate my future. Emily saw my expression change. What is it? I showed her the text. Her eyes narrowed. He's unbelievable. He is, I agreed, feeling something shift inside me. Not just anger now, but something clearer. Resolve. But you know what? He's also predictable, and that gives me power. What do you mean? I set my phone down deliberately. Richard thinks in patterns. Always has. When we met, he had a 5-year plan. Everything in his life follows a formula. Even his affair. He didn't leave spontaneously. He and Megan plotted it for months. Emily watched me, curious. So I know exactly what he'll do next, I continued. He'll try to convince me selling the house is the rational choice. He'll bring up maintenance costs and property taxes. He'll offer to split the proceeds generously. And when that doesn't work, he'll get his lawyer to pressure mine. And what will you do? I smiled, feeling the weight of the past few weeks begin to lift. I'm going to let him think he's winning, right up until the moment he realizes he's lost everything. Later that night, at home, I sat in what used to be our bedroom and opened my laptop. For 5 years, I'd been the silent partner in Richard's success. I'd edited his presentations, researched his competitors, even ghostwritten articles published under his name in industry journals. I knew his business better than he thought I did. I began typing an email to Jennifer, outlining exactly what I wanted from the divorce. Not just the house, though I would keep it, but a substantial portion of his future earnings from the River Point Plaza project. The project I'd helped conceptualize over dinner conversations. The project whose client I'd introduced him to through my old college roommate. When I finished, I walked to the window and looked out at the night sky. The same stars Richard and I had gazed at on our first date, when he'd pointed out constellations and told me he'd always wanted someone to share the view with. I'd spent weeks drowning in memories. Now it was time to swim to shore. I texted Richard back. I'm keeping the house, but we should talk. Coffee tomorrow? His response came quickly. Thank you. Being reasonable makes this easier for everyone. I smiled to myself. He had no idea what was coming. The storm was just beginning to break. The coffee shop Richard suggested was neutral territory, a place we'd never frequented as a couple. I arrived early and chose a table in the corner with a clear view of the entrance. I wanted to see his face when he walked in, wanted to gauge whether he'd come alone, or if Megan would be lurking nearby, perhaps watching from her car. I ordered a black coffee, something I never drank during our marriage. Richard always teased me about my dessert coffees, vanilla lattes with extra foam, caramel macchiatos that barely tasted of coffee. Small rebellions felt significant now. When he walked in, I felt a physical jolt, like touching a doorknob after shuffling across carpet. 15 years of conditioning doesn't vanish overnight. He was still handsome in that polished way that had first attracted me. Tall, with salt and pepper at his temples that made him look distinguished rather than old. He wore the navy blazer I'd bought him last Christmas. Sarah, he said, sliding into the seat across from me. His eyes widened slightly at my new haircut. You look different. That's generally what happens when your husband leaves you for a younger woman, I replied, keeping my voice light. You make changes. He had the decency to wince. I deserved that. You deserve a lot worse. But I didn't ask you here to trade barbs. Richard ordered his usual, medium roast, room for cream, and folded his hands on the table. I appreciate you being willing to discuss the house rationally. My lawyer says, I'm keeping the house, I interrupted. That's not up for negotiation. His expression flickered between surprise and irritation. Sarah, be reasonable. That house is too big for one person. The mortgage is manageable, I finished. I've reviewed our finances thoroughly. Our finances, he repeated, emphasizing the "our" in a way that made my skin crawl. Exactly. We built that life together, and now we need to dismantle it fairly. I took a sip of my bitter coffee, allowing the pause to stretch uncomfortably. You know what I've been thinking about lately? That presentation you gave to Weston Media Group last year. The one that landed you the promotion. Confusion crossed his face at the abrupt change of subject. What about it? I wrote most of it. In fact, I've written or edited nearly every major presentation you've given in the last 5 years. I introduced you to the River Point clients. I helped you strategize the Astoria bid. I've always appreciated your support, but it wasn't support, Richard. It was partnership. I put my career on hold to help build yours. He shifted uncomfortably. And I've always been grateful. But that was your choice. A choice made under the assumption that we were building something together, I said calmly. But now I realize you were just using me as a stepping stone. That's not fair. No. What's not fair is planning to leave your wife for nearly a year while she still believes in your marriage. I leaned forward. What's not fair is letting her plan an anniversary trip while you're sleeping with someone else. His jaw tightened. I didn't come here to rehash. I'm entitled to half of everything, Richard. Half of all assets acquired during our marriage. But I'm also entitled to recognition for my contributions to your career. What are you saying? Wariness crept into his voice. I'm saying that Jennifer has prepared a proposal for your lawyer. I want the house, yes. But I also want 20% of your commissions on the River Point project for the next 5 years. The color drained from his face. That's absurd. You can't be serious. I have emails, Richard. Emails where you discuss my ideas with your team. Emails where you forward my drafts and claim them as your own. I have documentation of meetings I set up, clients I brought in. That would never hold up in court. he said, but uncertainty flashed in his eyes. Are you willing to risk it? To have your colleagues and clients see how much of your success was actually mine? To have Megan see that the brilliant man she fell for was standing on his wife's shoulders? Richard's coffee sat untouched, a thin skin forming on its surface. This isn't like you, Sarah. You're not vindictive. I'm not being vindictive. I'm finally valuing myself the way I should have all along. If you push this, it will get ugly. I smiled, feeling strangely calm. It's already ugly, remember? You made it ugly when you decided our vows meant nothing. As he struggled to respond, I gathered my purse and stood. Jennifer will be in touch with the formal proposal. Oh, and Richard? I've reopened my LinkedIn profile. Several of your competitors have already reached out. The look on his face as I walked away was worth every tear I'd shed over the past month. Shock mingled with the dawning realization that he'd severely underestimated me. Outside, the autumn air felt crisp against my skin. For the first time since he'd left, I didn't feel like I was drowning. I felt like I was finally coming up for air. November brought the first snow and a flurry of legal maneuvers. Richard's lawyer, a shark in an expensive suit named Gregory Palmer, responded to Jennifer's proposal with predictable outrage. Extortion, he called it. A desperate attempt to capitalize on a failed marriage. Jennifer just laughed when she showed me his letter. They always start this way, she said, unimpressed. Next, they'll make a lowball counteroffer, then try to dig up dirt on you to strengthen their position. She was right. Within days, Richard's team began requesting detailed financial records, questioning expenses from our joint accounts, even suggesting I'd dissipated marital assets by renovating the guest bathroom last spring. They're fishing, Jennifer assured me over lunch at her office. Standard intimidation tactics. Don't worry. But I did worry, especially when I heard through Emily that Richard had been asking mutual friends about my mental state since the separation. He's trying to paint you as unstable, she warned. Telling people you're obsessed with revenge, that you're not thinking clearly. The irony wasn't lost on me. For years, Richard had subtly undermined my confidence, questioned my judgment, made me second-guess myself. Now he was using that same playbook, but with a wider audience. I found myself checking social media compulsively, wincing at every new photo of Richard and Megan at dinner parties I used to attend, business functions where I'd once stood by his side. They looked happy, carefree, like the affair that had destroyed my life was nothing more than a cute origin story. One evening, curled up on the couch with a glass of wine and my laptop, I was scrolling through yet another set of photos when my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Is this Sarah Harrington? A woman's voice, unfamiliar. Yes, who's calling? My name is Diane Lawson. I'm the office manager at Preston & Burke, Richard's firm. My heart hammered. How can I help you, Diane? Actually, I was hoping I could help you. She paused. I know about your situation with Richard. Everyone at the office does. I closed my eyes, imagining the whispers, the pitying glances that would follow me if I ever visited his building again. I worked closely with Richard for 7 years, Diane continued, and with Megan since she joined last year. I'm not sure I want to hear the details, I said, suddenly exhausted. No, that's not why I'm calling. I'm calling because... She lowered her voice. Because what he's doing to you now, he did to his first wife too. The room seemed to tilt. First wife? Before you. Catherine. They were married briefly when he first joined the firm. He never mentioned her? In 15 years, Richard had never once mentioned a previous marriage. Not once. He told everyone she was unstable, Diane went on. That the divorce was messy because she couldn't accept it was over. Sound familiar? My mouth went dry. Why are you telling me this? Because history's repeating itself, and it's not right. I've watched him take credit for your ideas for years. I've seen him use people, women especially, then discard them when they're no longer useful. I thought of the emails, the conversations where Richard had complained I was suffocating him with my support. Does Megan know? About his first wife? I doubt it. Catherine moved to Seattle afterward. Richard made sure everyone saw her as the villain. And now he's doing it to you. After we hung up, I sat motionless, processing. Another wife. Another woman he'd erased. How many patterns was I still blind to? I called Jennifer immediately. I need you to look into something. Richard was married before. A woman named Catherine. It ended badly. 2 days later, Jennifer had a thick folder waiting for me. "You hit the jackpot," she said, sliding it across her desk. "Catherine Wilson, now Catherine Morales, married to Richard for 14 months in 2003-2004. Their divorce records include allegations strikingly similar to yours, taking credit for her work, gaslighting, infidelity. Did she get anything in the settlement?" "Almost nothing. She was young, didn't have good representation. But here's the interesting part. She filed a workplace complaint against him 6 months after the divorce, claimed he was spreading false information about her mental health that damaged her professional reputation. What happened? The firm settled quietly. But there's a confidentiality agreement." I flipped through the documents, a strange calm settling over me. "Can we contact her?" Jennifer hesitated. "Legally, it's complicated. The confidentiality agreement. What if she contacts me first?" A slow smile spread across Jennifer's face. "That would be different." That evening, Richard called, his voice tight with forced casualness. "Sarah, I'm willing to discuss a more generous division of assets. Perhaps we can meet again, work something out directly." I knew immediately that something had shifted. Perhaps word had gotten back to him about my digging into his past. "I think our lawyers should handle it," I replied. "This doesn't have to be adversarial," he insisted. We had 15 good years together. Did Catherine Wilson think it was good too? The silence that followed was deafening. When he finally spoke, his voice had dropped an octave. "You're making a mistake, Sarah." "No, Richard. The mistake was thinking I needed you more than you needed me." After we hung up, I opened my email to find a message from an unfamiliar address, kmorales@seattledesign.com. The subject line read simply, "I heard you're looking for me." For the first time in weeks, I smiled without forcing it. The balance was shifting, and Richard was finally beginning to realize it. Catherine Morales was nothing like I'd imagined. Over video chat, her face filled my screen. Warm brown eyes, laugh lines, a streak of silver in her dark hair that she hadn't bothered to cover. She sat in what looked like a home office, abstract paintings hanging on the wall behind her. Her wedding ring caught the light when she gestured. "I never thought he'd do it again," she said, shaking her head. Though I shouldn't be surprised. Men like Richard don't change. They just find new audiences. For 2 hours we talked. 2 women connected by the same man. The same patterns of manipulation and betrayal. Catherine had been 25 when she married Richard, fresh out of graduate school and dazzled by his confidence. Like me, she'd put her career on hold to support his. Like me, she'd been discarded when he found someone new. "The worst part wasn't the affair," she said, echoing my own thoughts. "It was how he rewrote our history afterward, how he convinced everyone, including me for a while, that I was the problem. Did you ever recover? Professionally, I mean." She smiled, gesturing to her office. "I run my own design firm now, 16 employees and counting. The best revenge is building something he can't take credit for." After we disconnected, I sat at my kitchen table staring at the blank screen. Catherine had not only survived Richard, she'd thrived, found love again, built a successful business, created a life that had nothing to do with her ex-husband. Could I do the same? The next morning, I woke with a clarity I hadn't felt in months. I showered, dressed in the power suit I used to wear to client meetings in my previous life, and drove to a small office building downtown. Inside, a receptionist greeted me warmly. "Sarah Harrington to see Marcus Bennett," I said. Marcus had been a client at my old firm before I left to support Richard's career. We'd kept in sporadic contact over the years. Holiday cards, occasional LinkedIn messages. When I'd reached out yesterday, he'd responded immediately. "Would love to catch up. Come by tomorrow." "Sarah," Marcus emerged from his office, older but still with the same boyish enthusiasm. "God, it's been what, 5 years? Almost 6, I corrected, accepting his hug. His office was cluttered but vibrant, plants on every surface, walls covered with campaign mock-ups and competitor analyses. Marcus ran a boutique marketing agency specializing in local businesses, the kind of hands-on work I'd always enjoyed. "So," he said after we'd settled with coffee, "you're getting back in the game." "Trying to," I admitted. "It's been a while." But you've been keeping your hand in, right? Your husband's campaigns? I always told people, Richard Harrington's got a secret weapon. His wife is the real marketing genius. I blinked, surprised. You could tell? Marcus laughed. Sarah, I worked with you for 3 years. I know your style, your approach. Those campaigns had your fingerprints all over them. Something warm unfurled in my chest. Validation from someone who recognized my work, even when it had been presented under another name. So what are you thinking? He asked. Agency work? Corporate? Freelance? I'm not sure yet. I just know I need to start rebuilding. Marcus leaned back, studying me. We have a project I could use help with. 6-month contract to start. The client's a local restaurant group looking to rebrand after the pandemic. Nothing flashy, but solid work. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you a chance, he corrected. Because I remember how good you were, and talent like that doesn't disappear just because you took a detour. I left Marcus's office with a contract to review and a start date for the following Monday. Walking to my car, I felt lighter somehow, as if I'd shed a skin I'd outgrown. That afternoon, Jennifer called with news. Richard's lawyer reached out. They want to settle. Why the sudden change of heart? Apparently, Catherine Morales contacted the partners at Richard's firm, reminded them of certain unresolved issues from her time there, issues that might become public if your case goes to court. I thought of Catherine's determined face on my screen. She didn't have to do that. No, but she did. And now Richard's scrambling. The offer's more than fair. The house, a significant cash settlement, and 15% of the Riverpoint commissions for 3 years. Not 20% for 5 years. Negotiations rarely end with either side getting everything they want. But this is a win, Sarah. That evening, I walked through the house. Our house, now my house. Touching the walls, the furniture, seeing it all with new eyes. So many memories lived in these rooms. For weeks, they'd felt like ghosts haunting me. Now they seemed more like old photographs, fading but no longer painful to look at. I opened a bottle of wine, not to drown my sorrows but to toast my future, and curled up on the window seat in the living room. Outside, the first real snow of winter was falling, covering the neighborhood in pristine white. My phone buzzed with a text from Emily. Heard the news. Celebration dinner tomorrow? I smiled, typing back. Yes. And I have more news, starting a new job Monday. The responses flooded in. Congratulations, excited emojis, demands for details. My friends had been waiting in the wings, giving me space to grieve but ready to cheer my renaissance. As I watched the snow transform the world outside my window, I thought about Catherine's words. The best revenge is building something he can't take credit for. I wasn't naive enough to think the road ahead would be easy. There would be days when the pain would return, when memories would ambush me, when rebuilding would feel impossible. But for the first time since Richard had walked out, I could envision a future that wasn't defined by his absence, a future that was entirely my own creation. I raised my glass to my reflection in the window. To the rising phoenix, I whispered.